Welcome to the Startup Grind.
Welcome to Mr. President. And we also have, and to do it more, so we have the energy, can we stand up and give an applause for Steve Jones, who's here to speak with us. Thank you. So the format tonight is pretty casual. It's just going to be Steve and I talking just like, well, the way you see it. So kind of like we're at talking over coffee or a fireside chat. That's why they're called fireside chats. About 35, 40 minutes, somewhere in there. I'm going to put my microphone on the stand so anybody who has questions can come up and be able to ask. So other than that, we'll just get started. Does that sound good? Okay. Thank you. So, hi, Steve.
Hello, Stacy.
Okay, you need your microphone, too.
Alrighty.
So, how are you tonight?
We're doing fine. It's wonderful to have everybody here this evening.
Okay. So, I know one question that we were all wondering, and maybe you can kind of take us back to when Mr. President's first opened, or just before. What was Kalamazoo like in the early 1970s when, the kind of name that time and describe what it was like down here?
Well, let me give you a little bit of history before Mr. President.
Okay.
My family, my uncle, Fred Jones, has been in the restaurant and nightclub business since 1961. So long before Mr. President, we were at a previous location for about 11, 12 years before we moved here. And with the expansion of the mall and as things, some of the demographics in the city started to change, we moved downtown.
Okay.
And probably came here 71, opened up 73, but downtown was completely different. Nobody lived downtown then. Everything was all vacant up above. Most of the buildings downtown at one time, a lot of them had manufacturing above. There was manufacturing in our building here. So it was a very different time.
So what led to the idea of coming downtown and starting a place called Mr. President?
And a lot of people are curious by the name Mr. President and where that originated from. There's a lot of new people that did not know us years ago that assumed that the name was new in tribute to our president. But the first restaurant nightclub was called the Ambassador. It was called the Ambassador Lounge, and that opened at 61. So it was a natural progression to go from the Ambassador to the President when we moved here. And when we moved here, it was a fine dining supper club, and we had live entertainment, fine dining. But as the times changed, going into the 70s, we turned into the upscale urban disco. And we were that for many years here. We had lines wrapped around the building for 3 or 4 nights a week for a lot of years.
Okay, so you said your uncle started this. So what was your role in what was the idea of entertainment? Because I read somewhere that he had originally thought about starting a coin laundromat.
Well, the first place that was built, the Ambassador, he built the building and did not really know what he wanted to do with it originally. And that kind of morphed into a laundromat, some other things, and decided to be a nightclub.
Okay, and what has been your role? Because you started as a dishwasher here?
Yeah, I was in probably 9th grade. I came and worked for the summer washing dishes. There was a dishwasher that was here when I came, and he was so glad to see me He really liked Mr. Jones. He didn't want to quit and leave him without a dishwasher, so I became the dishwasher. And my first week here, I worked 70 hours. I was the only dishwasher. I came at 8 o'clock in the morning and worked till 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Came back at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and worked until we closed, sometimes 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night.
Wow, and around what year was this?
That was 1974.
Okay. So disco, when you're talking about disco, what time period are we talking about there?
Well,
for those of us who aren't.
we were the disco era was going on in '74. We were somewhat resistant to it because it was a whole different market than what we had been doing. But you have to adapt with the times and the changes and people's taste, and so around '77 is probably when we stopped having bands on a full-time basis. And we hired our first DJ, and the crowds just were ecstatic. It really took off from there. Became a very busy time.
Right, so you're talking about lines around the block, disco era. So then what happened? I mean, as disco faded, because we all know it did.
Yeah. Well, disco faded, but the DJ format did not fade. Mm-hmm. Nightclubs were very popular at that time. There's a lot of people out. A lot of people enjoyed nightlife. So we kept the DJ format, but we started inserting bands at different times. We've always done jazz here. We've done blues and other things. So we introduced live entertainment back to here.
So did you see changes in Kalamazoo in this area, like as Mr. President's was changing too?
Yeah. The demographics downtown are completely different from when we were here before. There's a lot of new people in the city. New people that move downtown understand diversity, which is in reopening. Our market or crowd the clientele has been very much more diverse than what it was. We always wanted diversity, but it was a different time. It was the 70s and going the early 80s. And a lot of people were, quite frankly, intimidated to come here.
Well, why do you think that is? I mean,
well, I think a lot of it was just society at the time.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's a much better time, and we've been received very well in reopening after all of these years. We've had to find new customers. Our old customers are gone. They're not drinking and moving around the way they did. So new people are discovering us. We're discovering them, and it's been fun coming back.
Well, that's great. I want to back up a bit. So, what were kind of the struggles, or just? I mean, I know you were talking about like the end of disco, but what were other struggles that were maybe here, and since describe more what your role has been too, like what you've seen and in those struggles.
Well, when you
as it was leading towards the
I think
end of the 27 years.
You have normal struggles in a small business. In a small business, everybody wears 3 or 4 different hats. Your role could change daily, and that's part of anyone that ever goes into business. In small business, that's what you find you have to do. One day you're a dishwasher again. The next day you're a manager. Then there's times I've had to be the DJ. So you're always doing something different. You have to fill the gap, and when you have employees in a small business, people that work with you, they learn to do different things. They learn to be a waiter. They learn how to be a bartender. They have to learn how to be a DJ if you need one in a pinch. And everybody's a janitor.
Interesting. So is that probably one of the lessons then is just that if you're going to be an entrepreneur and be in business, you're going to learn all the different roles. So are there other lessons that or other advice that you would want to give to the crowd who's here?
Well, that's exactly what you said. And a lot of people have a misconception about going into business, and they think they're going to do one thing. You might go into business thinking you're going to do one thing, and your customers tell you you're going to do something else. So you have to make the adjustments that you need when it comes to employees, what your service is, what your product is. It's a nature of being in business. A lot of businesses, what they are today are not what they started off to be.
So how many times do you think it changed just in the period that this has been open?
Oh, it's always changing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always changing, and you're always adapting. Some of the things that we like to see no longer existent. The customer base is different. The whole attitude is different. The eating habits are different. The drinking is different. The whole entertainment aspect is different. So this reopening has been a major discovery process for us.
Okay.
And we didn't know, quite frankly, what to expect. The reason, one of the questions I know you want to ask me is that why we closed for 14 years.
Yes.
We were going to close for 8 weeks, and that turned into 14 years. Other businesses took precedent. Some of it was changing times at the time. The disco had faded out, the hip-hop era had moved in, and that was a completely different kind of clientele. And a lot of the nightclubs did not make the transition at that point. So it was kind of a stop and see, where we go from here, what we do. We continued to keep the building and keep it maintained, and it kind of evolved to the point that we looked and we saw that there was a demand for an adult establishment in the community, and we thought that we would be able to fill that need.
Okay. So part of the research then just looking for something like that. What was it? I mean, 14 years is a long time. So what was it that you were doing during that time, even separate from Mr. President's?
Well, I spent most of that time in Florida working in the internet business, e-commerce solutions, different things. And most of my family is here, and it seemed like a good time for me to come back this way. Why my parents were healthy, and a lot of my other family is getting older, and it seemed like a good time to be closer to home.
Okay.
And it just coincided with the time-wise that my uncle wanted to reopen.
Okay.
So it was more timing, just timing than anything.
And then here we are today.
Exactly.
So you've been open, I don't know if everyone knows when it reopened. So it's been open just over a year?
Yeah, a little bit over a year. And we've been received very well. The challenge is that for a lot of adults, they've not been in a nightclub for a while because a lot of young people have ran them out of the nightclubs.
Okay.
And a lot of people don't want to be around college-age drinkers, partiers, and so we've chosen a very tough niche because, quite frankly, young people come out all the time. As people get older, their priorities change. What's important to them is not being in a nightclub every weekend. As we're young people, that becomes kind of important. So we're hoping there's enough market that we can recycle some people that they're not going to come out every week, but maybe we can get them to come out once a month. So we've got people that are coming from surrounding cities that come and enjoy it, and we're doing a lot of private parties, and we have so many different kinds of people that come. We've got to make a lot of adjustments music-wise in what we do. There's some nights that we have a crowd that's 30 years old that's here, and some nights a crowd 60 years old. So we try to please everyone and make everyone happy and do a good job at what we're doing. And our restaurant is fantastic. The food is great.
So when you're talking about the niche, so what is it? I mean, I know who you're catering to, but how are you making it different than the group who is going to like the downtown district area?
Well, the age category, the market that we're shooting for is 30 and over. We make adjustments to that. We're looking for adults. We have a dress code, and a lot of adults that want to get dressed up and come out for the weekend. They don't want to sit next to someone with a jersey and a hat on backwards and tennis shoes if someone is dressed up. So nothing wrong with that other kind of dress. It's just not the market that we've chosen to cater to.
Okay, so it's the behaviors and the dress code, things like that you're looking for. So that's what distinguishes probably coming here over.
Yeah, and there's some other factors that there's a lot of places you go and there's service has become horrible all over, but they try to provide good service. I was in a local establishment and I stopped to have a cocktail and they served me a cocktail in a plastic cup. And I guess if you deal with people that are 21 years old, that you have to do that. But we still have glasses. If a person wants a beer, we have a chilled glass if they want a chilled glass. So there's small things like that people that want different kind of service. We just hope there's enough of them there.
Yeah. Well, so before I open it up to the audience for questions, is there anything else that you want to make sure that you're telling them that I haven't already asked?
No, just that for any young person that's a wannabe entrepreneur, young person or old person, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work and a lot of dedication and a commitment to doing it. But you have to do something you have a passion for, regardless if it's a job or you're creating a job for yourself. You got to have a passion for it. If you don't love it, you can't do it. There's a lot of days that are dark days, and you ask yourself why you're doing it, but you have to do it because you love it.
Thank you. So do I have anyone who wants to ask a question? You can come up to the microphone stand.
I have a question. Bright lights are a little intimidating. Where would you like me to face? Okay, Steve. Hi, I'm Jesse. I grew up in Kalamazoo, and I didn't know of Mr. President's because I was a child when it was first opened. Okay. But I'm interested in the market of over 30. I'm 24 years old, so I think of this as after reading the MLive article, a bar that I'm not allowed to go to. And you touched on that, and I have come and had a drink here prior, and I was not turned away. But how are you reaching the over 30 market? Are you guys taking a word of mouth approach? Are you using social media?
Well, in marketing today, it's a challenge for everyone. is trying to find an effective medium to advertise. Of course, social media is a very big one. You've got to build a market for that. Radio is a dying entity, as well as newsprint is. So it's a challenge for anyone. You don't see as many small local businesses because of they can't afford the national advertising. So as a small business, it's truly a challenge. Advertising has always been money you're tossing up in the air and to see if you can get some results out of it. So, and not really a good, effective way to measure what you're getting out of it. So, word of mouth has been a good one. Social media has done wonders for us, but we're always looking for any better way to reach people. I've got as you came in the door, I've got a sign-up sheet that to get on our email list, and we try to stay in touch with people that way. And it's very cost-effective to do it. But for every small business, it's a challenge finding a medium to communicate with. You see, the local newspaper is down to being very thin paper. And radio, the demographics of radio, everybody that's your generation, most of you don't listen to radio. We have some other form of, whether it's satellite or some other device that you listen to information from. So local news, it's a struggle.
When you talk to your, I'm assuming there's bouncers out front checking IDs when you come in. Are you finding out that they're turning away a younger market, or are they not even coming in?
The 30 age range is a yardstick.
Right.
We're looking for a certain kind of customer.
Well, for example, not to interrupt you, but for example, like are you getting the jerseys and the backwards hats approaching and the tennis shoes and having to turn them away? Or?
When we first opened, we were.
Okay.
But word has kind of gone forth that what we're looking for, what we're not looking for. So we're getting a lot of people that come and say, I hear you have a place where people have to dress up and to come, and that's the kind of place we want to come to. So word of mouth seems to be working very well with it. Occasionally we get people that stumble in with the jerseys, and it doesn't make any difference whether they're 21 or they're 51.
Right.
That's not what we're looking for. So the 30 is just a yardstick.
Okay.
But it's there's a lot of adults at your age that we're happy to have.
Oh, great. Good to hear. And I don't want to overstay my welcome on the microphone, but I have one last question for you.
Sure.
And that, I'm going to leave here with, and a lot of people are, with the opportunity to spread word of mouth. And so if you can just fill in the blank of, like, come to Mr. President's for, or if you want blank, you've got to go to Mr. President.
Well, if you want a good time. You want a good time that's nice and safe, and the food is good, and you want good service, and you want to be treated well. Not, hoarded through and given a plastic cup.
Good to hear. Thank you for having us.
Food's great. Yep.
Thanks, Jesse. Does anyone else want to ask a question? Come on, Kathy.
So first of all, I just want to say thank you because you've been so wonderful to our group, Cala Salon, which meets here. We're a conversational group. Everybody's welcome. Meets here second Thursday of the month.
And really, Cala Salon is wonderful. They are here every second Thursday, and they have great topics of conversation. We love to have participation. Anyone that likes to talk, anyone that follows the news and wants to share their views, please come every second Thursday.
Thank you.
It's a wonderful time.
It should be a very interesting year with the election coming up for topics. But anyway, you and your daughter Carmen have been absolutely wonderful to us. We feel so welcome here, and it's just a wonderful vibe. I wanted to ask you about the how you mentor young folks who end up working here. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, one of the most important parts of this journey in coming back, was not solely based on the economics of it. We're here close to the Kalamazoo mission, the gospel mission right down the street from us. And we get a lot of people that stop by here that are looking for food, they're looking for employment, they're looking for help. That was a big motivating factor in coming back here and opening up. It's given us an opportunity to train people how to be a bartender, how to be a server, how to work in the kitchen, how to do decent, honest work. In the start of this business, when I started, much later, but we had people that were professional waiters. That's what they did for a living, and they were very good at it. They made it a profession. They were professional, and they taught the rest of us. And it's a tradition of how to do things right, how to do it correct. So there's a lot of young people that have not had the opportunity to, young and old, have an opportunity to somebody to take time to train them. So even the days that we're here that when it's not flourishing, we can feel good the fact that we've brought young people in and we're training them how to do something. And if they come and learn and they leave and they go to work down the street at someplace different, I'm very happy for them because we've done our part. And that's what the journey has to be about. It can't be just about economics. If you can get back in to make money, you've got to be about helping people. And that's what we've always been about here. We've always brought people in and trained them and helped them. So it's the second law in business.
So that would be another of the lessons and advice then.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
You've got to have a big heart if you're in a small business.
So if I want to start a business and all I want to do is make money,
it generally doesn't work because in a small business you're involved in people's personal lives. They come to you first with their troubles. If they can't go to their folks or anyone else, you're the employer. They depend upon you. If they need a tire, if they need their phone bill paid, if they need their rent paid, if they need the electric bill, you're their first line. Sometimes it's a good investment, sometimes it's a bad investment. But when I look at all the people that have worked here throughout the years, and the people that have gone on to do great things and have very productive lives, people that we took a chance on, I know it was the right thing to do.
any specific stories that you want to share from that?
Well, there's numerous stories of we've hired people that have been incarcerated. They've been here. This is always been a great networking place, and years ago, a lot of them were able to get jobs by people that they met in this environment, and have gone on to be successful, to have successful families, productive lives. A lot of we gave a lot of musicians their first start in playing here that have gone on to be very successful.
Okay, so I'll go back to the audience. Does anyone else have a question that they want to ask? Jessica.
Jessica. So I was going to ask you, so location-wise, you're near the festival site, and part of your decision when you decided to reopen, was it a factor on how the area just in the vicinity here has changed, how the festival site's developed? And festival site-wise, people are coming very casual. There's very few of the festivals that people are actually in a nice dress that they would come in afterwards, and doesn't it really affect your business, or are you seeing people leaving and going elsewhere?
Well, the last year, basically, the real first year we were open during the festival site, when the festival started, there was 3-4 major festivals. Now there tends to be something every weekend. it has somewhat diluted the festivals. They're not as impactful as they were. Some of it's the economic condition, but we make some exceptions in the evening, people at the festival site, because we're always looking for new customers. So people are dressed casual when they go to the festival. They stop in, and we inform them that we have a dress code, but we'd like to invite them in, and just when you come back next time, you know what we're looking for. But we have a Little Smokies barbecue takeout window in the back of our building that we will complete sometime next year, and we built that in somewhat preparation for the festivals and for the downtown traffic that I was looking for some good food late at night.
Okay, so you plan on doing that till 2 a.m. then?
Probably not till 2 a.m., but if business calls for that, then we'll be there till 2 a.m.
Okay, so what's the square footage of your building?
Each floor has 5,000 square foot.
So that's a really large expense. When you thought about maintaining something like that, did you think about, instead of opening this back up like this and saying we're going to shoot for this market, did you think that maybe getting a chain or something like Hopcat's very popular and they've been opening things, of selling to some place like that would be opening something that would require a large space like that? Yeah,
well, throughout the years, the space helps you and it hurts you. If you have a small space and you fill it up, people want to be somewhere that the place is full. They want to be arm in arm with people and they feel like they're having a good time. When you have a large space, if you put 50 people in the building, it's like nobody's here. But when you're really busy and you need the space, it's nice to have it. So it goes both ways. The space can be a challenge, but the conversation room that we have, it's our conversation VIP room, we never had a separate room like that before. So we really didn't have the capability to do smaller kinds of private parties. And we're doing a lot of them. People come and they love the room and it's fantastic. So that kind of helps us, having a separate room now.
Okay, so one last question. Has anybody had any problems with parking, or have they had issues, or they didn't know where they should go as far as parking for coming here and how they get in the building type thing?
No, I don't think so. We have a parking lot on the north end of our building, and sometimes people come and they're surprised that we have a parking lot there. But we have a parking ramp that's half a block from us. There's plenty of parking on the street. The one thing that changed is that for a lot of people that were not here before the festival site, where the festival site was all parking. It was downtown parking. So we lost that parking, but no. People that live downtown, they understand parking, and they're familiar with paying for parking. A lot of people that have been in the city a long time have always fought about having meters downtown and paying for parking. But what I'm finding at the diversity of people that live downtown now, they understand that very clearly. It's not a problem. And parking is, quite frankly, compared to a lot of cities, is very reasonable here.
I agree.
Yeah.
Not everybody does, but
No.
Thank you so much for hosting here tonight.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it and answering my question.
Thanks. Is there anyone else who has a question? Come on up, Tom.
Well, first of all, thank you for introducing us to your fine establishment. Now, I know
Glad to have you.
Jones is a common name.
Yes.
And I believe Robert Jones used to have a office across the street.
Yes, he
You were
did.
talking politics a little while ago. Any relation?
No. The former mayor is no relation. But yep. But we were acquaintances and friends for years.
Was he a customer?
Yeah, he was a customer. Yep, he was a customer. He and his wife were both customers here.
He was a good guy, too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks. there anyone else?
Well, I will second what everyone else has said. Thank you for having us here. So I also come from, my family does have a small business that's been around for generations. Just seeing it from a different perspective, the entertainment food industry, what advice do you have for someone that wants to hopefully sustain that through more generations moving forward? Or what have you noticed in the past so far?
Well, there are certain kinds of things that why a business lasts, and there are some values in how you operate. We've had a liquor license since 1961, and I don't know if anybody here is familiar with the bar business or the nightclub business, but we have never had a liquor violation. And most places have numerous violations each year.
Right.
But we've always tried to be very prudent about what we did. We were never obsessed with money. There's certain customers' money that you want, and there's certain customers' money that you don't want. But you have to stand for something. So you have to have some of those traditional kinds of things that sustain you in business that will have to go on in the next generation that takes over. But also the next generation that takes over, they have to adapt to whatever the time is. And the time changed, the taste changed, everything changes. So either you adapt or you can't sustain. Some of it which you might not want, you might not like, but younger generation may understand it better. But you have to have some values about what you're doing.
Right.
If it's a restaurant business, it's the quality of the food, it's the quality of the service. Whatever business that has there are certain things that separate them from somebody else. But there has to be some integrity about what you're doing. Without in transitioning from one generation to the next, that doesn't get lost. Otherwise, you won't be able to sustain it.
No.
So that's a very important one.
Definitely.
It's a great question of why businesses, a lot of them are, after one generation they're dead. Sometimes family is not interested in being involved in it. It's very easy to understand why some people get a job, because this is 24/7. It goes on.
Right.
You have to love doing it. If you don't love doing it, you absolutely hate it. But there's some reward in the independence, being able to employ people and make a difference in society. Be able to give back. That's a very important one.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. So are there any other questions? Okay, so I have one more. So as far as the city of Kalamazoo, so I mean, you've talked a lot about what has changed in Kalamazoo. So is there anything, like, what do you feel is still missing that would really help Kalamazoo?
Well, as every small business person or large business person, you need more customers. That's the first one. I think having been gone from here for 15 years, the city has changed tremendously. I'm very pleased at my hometown that has progressed, and there's been some downsides. I have a friend that works in advertising, and he informed me. He said Kalamazoo went through a recession before the recession. When you think of all the manufacturing and a lot of the companies that were here that are gone, and that were very good jobs where people had disposable income, and businesses like this, food business, entertainment, rely on people that have disposable income. So that's a challenge for everybody that's in the entertainment business or the food business, as you need those kind of customers. But there are other segments in the market that are doing very well. downtown is absolutely fantastic now. We've got a whole new industry at the craft brew industry. When I first moved to Florida, I tell people I was from Kalamazoo, and they say, "You mean Timbuktu?" And before the last 4 or 5 years before I left, I'd had friends and business associates that would tell me they were going to be in Chicago or Detroit, and they're going to rent a car, and they're coming to Kalamazoo and going to Bell's Brewery. So the craft brew just has really put Kalamazoo on the map again. So there's people that come here from all over the country. They come here to tour and they come and spend the weekend, and so it's a lot of good things happening here, and we're happy to be reopened and be a part of it.
So nothing that you see that, well, you mentioned needing customers. So, but is there something in the city itself that is still missing? Like, what would help Kalamazoo continue to thrive even more?
Well, I think Kalamazoo has the same struggles I think that most cities have with employment and the homeless problem. It's very sensitive to us because it's within a block from us, and we deal with it every day. Some days we have more people looking for free food than people that want to buy food. And we know we can't save the world, but we try to help when we can.
So is there anything else that you want to tell the audience? 'Cause
No, I'd just like to thank everybody for being here, and I know for a lot of you this is your first time in the building, so be sure you look around, and we got a fantastic upstairs that is not done, that eventually at some point that we hope to have finished, and we've got a nice deck in the back, and at some point we'll have those things ready when the festival sites are going. But anybody that's out and about that wants a good meal and wants to have some nice entertainment, please come down and see us.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.